and you don't believe in your customers, and you do things that are not right with them, you get canceled in 2 seconds.
But even your own partners in business, if you can't trust them, if that person's of integrity, honesty.
That's why the economy works. It's very transparent.
But there's a spiritual and moral dimension of that that's not reducible to just having money.
Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Bran, and I came across this clip from Abby Phillip's CNN panel featuring Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, alongside Dr. Cornel West and others. And this moment really stood out to me, because what Kevin is saying here sounds reasonable on the surface. He's talking about trust, how if you mistreat customers or can't trust your business partners, the whole system breaks down. And he's right about that. Trust does make the economy work. But what Dr. West pushes back on is the part a lot of people don't want to talk about. Trust isn't just transactional, it's moral. There's a difference between trusting someone because it's profitable and trusting someone because they actually believe in doing the right thing. And that distinction matters. Because once everything gets reduced to money, branding, and outcomes, you lose the deeper values that hold a society together. At that point, trust isn't about integrity anymore. It's just about leverage. That's why this exchange matters beyond business or politics. When morality becomes optional and everything is framed as whatever works, the foundation starts cracking. Markets, institutions, and relationships don't survive long when trust is treated like a strategy instead of a principle. As this discussion moves into Trump's rhetoric, that's the question sitting underneath all of it for me. Are we building a culture on character or just on advantage? Because once trust collapses, no amount of money or power can replace it. Let's get into the clip.
Tonight, President Trump ratchets up the rhetoric against a familiar foe.
I love this Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little turban. I love her. She comes in, does nothing but bitch. She's always complaining. She comes from a country where, it's considered about the worst country in the world, right? But she comes to our country, and she's always complaining about the Constitution allows me to do this. We ought to get her the hell out. She should get the hell out. Throw her the hell out. She does nothing but complain.
And that's not all. He also revived an old remark that he made behind closed doors back in 2018 about shithole countries. Listen to this.
Why is it we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime. The only thing they're good at is going after ships.
Now, I just want to remind you that when those comments were reported by CNN, by the Washington Post, by other outlets, the White House, Trump denied it. Let me just play that denial.
Did you see what various senators in the room said about my comments? They were me. No, I'm not a racist. I am the least racist person you have ever interviewed. That I can tell you.
I remember that well.
You were there? Yeah, I remember.
And there were some senators that were at the White House that day and came back and reported what he had said.
Dick Durbin and others. Yeah, Chuck Schumer was in that meeting.
Yeah, and that's the difference between the first term and the second term. The first term, he would deny, no, I've never said that.
Right.
He'd say it, but he wouldn't admit to saying it. Now, it's just out in the open.
It is out in the open. I'm thinking about what you were saying in that last segment, because this feels like exactly what you were referencing.
No, it's true. And of course, 100 years ago, they were saying that about precious Irish brothers and sisters, Jewish brothers and sisters, Italian brothers and sisters,
please.
Polish. No. Samuel Beckett forever. But so that this is just a cycle. It's a human thing. You know, we're all human beings. We got to keep track of the organized hatred and weaponized greed and institutionalized indifference toward the weak and vulnerable. These moral and spiritual issues are perennial. Every generation has to come to terms with it. Thank God 100 years ago, voices that were moral and spiritual spoke out against it and called it for what it was. It's just hatred. This is revenge. This is xenophobia. But when you say that, you don't put them outside of the human race. They're still continuous with us They're just the worst in us because that same hatred and same greed is inside of us. It's in the civil war and the battlefield of our own souls every day. We have to fight it every day. And if we don't die every day, as biblical text says, you got to die every day. You got to fight that greed and hatred every day. If you don't, you're going to slide down a slippery slope.
Isn't the American project supposed to be about treating people as individuals, not as representatives of where they came from, about who their parents were, or whatever, but about who they are and what they can individually contribute to this country? However, what Trump is doing there is basically saying you are worthless if you come from a part of the world that he doesn't think has value. Is that really what we're doing in the United States of America?
That's not true in America. That's not true.
we in America, we do treat
That's
people
not
as
true.
individuals and appreciate them as individuals. It's one of the greatest things about this country. On the other hand, and I am no fan of Ilhan Omar, and she is in a lot of deep doo-doo now because she is very tangled in this billion-dollar Somali Medicaid fraud scandal in Minneapolis, and she may be touched by this. And of course,
I haven't seen any evidence of her being connected to it, except for her being Somali.
Let me tell you why the check and balance. Let me tell you why
Abby, there is evidence.
This kind
that
of
she was
rhetoric
tangled
doesn't
into this
matter
web.
because the economy, the American economy, is based on entrepreneurship. I'm just one random investor. There are millions like me. We don't give a damn where you came from. We only ask, do you have executional excellence? I hire everybody, regardless of where their origination was or their race, religion, their skin color. I don't give up. It doesn't matter. If you can actually execute, you fit in an American company. And that exists today, regardless of who's the executive. I don't agree with those comments, but it's the economy that saves us all. The 200 years of success, the number one economy on earth, driven by every race and color and religion because of executional skills. Nothing else. That's it.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And
Kevin O'Leary keeps saying the American economy doesn't care where you're from, only whether you can execute. And on paper, that sounds fair. Merit, effort, contribution, fine. But then I'm sitting here asking myself, who exactly does Kevin think is executing right now? Because the migrants Trump constantly attacks are the same people picking crops, working construction, cleaning hotels, doing the jobs that literally keep the economy running. If execution is the standard, they meet it every single day. And this is where the logic breaks. You can't say America values individual contribution while defending rhetoric that treats entire groups of people as disposable based on where they came from. That's not individualism. That's collective punishment dressed up as economics. What makes this worse is that Kevin keeps separating Trump's language from real-world consequences, like it's just noise. But Trump isn't some random guy at a dinner table. He's the political figure shaping immigration policy, trade policy, tariffs, labor conditions, real decisions that hit real people. So when Kevin says the economy saves us, I don't buy that it magically cancels out leadership that actively targets the very workers that economy depends on. And let's be honest about the distraction pattern here. When pressure mounts, bad economic indicators, healthcare costs rising, scandals piling up, Trump goes back to what he knows works. Attacking immigrants, using coded language about good countries and bad ones, turning frustration into resentment. It's not policy, it's diversion. The irony is, Trump praises Scandinavian countries when it suits him, but the moment anyone suggests adopting their policies, strong social safety nets, worker protections, healthcare, suddenly those same countries become socialist nightmares. You can't cherry pick people from places you admire while rejecting everything that actually makes those places function. This isn't about execution. It's about power, blame, and who gets treated as fully human when things go wrong. To be fair, Kevin's point about merit isn't wrong in principle. Many people do believe the strength of the American economy comes from rewarding skill, effort, and results rather than background. That idea has attracted people from all over the world for generations. But where this conversation gets complicated is when economic merit is discussed in isolation, without acknowledging how political rhetoric and policy shape who even gets the chance to participate in that system in the first place. And that's really the tension in this clip. It's not about whether America can value individual contribution. It's about whether the language and policies coming from leadership align with that value consistently. If the message is anyone who contributes belongs, then that standard has to apply across the board, including to immigrants doing essential work, even when it's politically inconvenient. Otherwise, the principle starts to feel selective rather than universal.
in this moment, what is happening, the government policy right now is that if you are from a list of countries, I think right now it's 19, but they want to expand it to 30, you're going in, you've gone through the whole immigration process. You're going in to take your oath of allegiance to the United States and become a citizen. And they are pulling you out of line. The executive director of an immigration organization says, we have 15 clients whose oath ceremonies have been canceled. They were fully vetted and approved. We have others whose interviews have been canceled. They're all from those 19 countries. How is that not punishing people for things that they themselves did not do, but that other people who happen to be from the same country might have done?
And this is all political. It's a distraction. I'll go back to your comment about the economy. People that were watching that rally, even the people standing behind, at the end of the day, all they care about is the economy. Can they pay their bills right now? Can they afford the squeeze that they are feeling every single day? Donald Trump doesn't like to tackle things that are difficult. Healthcare, inflation, tariffs, dealing with foreign countries. These are tough issues, policy issues. So what does he do? He makes fun of people. He goes after people, particularly women, and particularly women of color, which is just so offensive on so many levels that he goes after female journalists. He goes after members of Congress. You see him doing it with Nancy Mace, with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm naming Republicans right now. It's a perpetual problem and pattern that he has, and it's a distraction from the economy, which he is failing on.
I do believe that people coming in from certain countries that have posed terrorist risks to us in the past should be more adequately vetted. And if listing the countries and saying people coming in from these countries must be more thoroughly researched, more thoroughly verified before they're admitted to this country, I have no problem with that, because the president is also responsible for the national security of this country.
But the thing is, though, you see, that even all the gold in the world, no matter how many golden calves you have, you can't have an economy unless you're also rich in the things money can't buy. Integrity, honesty. You can't even have a contract if you're dealing with gangsters. You can't even have a relationship if you're dealing with thugs. You can't have a capitalist economy without some notion of contract with people that you engage in, you have some trust in. That's the kind of stuff money can't buy.
Businesses are judged by those
money
rules
can't buy
every
that.
day.
That's right, rule of law.
They're judged by, if you are an immoral issuer and you don't believe in your customers and you do things that are not right with them, you get canceled in 2 seconds.
But even your own partners in business, if you can't trust them, if that person is of integrity, honesty.
That's why the economy works. It's very transparent.
But there's a spiritual and moral dimension of that that's not reducible to just having money.
That's why you're at the table.
Excuse me, you're telling me you can live without money?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
having a problem with that one.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that no economy can survive without some notion of trust and
I don't
integrity
think you would
that
disagree
allows.
with that, right,
I'm sorry,
Kevin?
but this economy's really surviving. It's the number one economy
Yeah, but
on
Kevin,
earth.
I don't think you would disagree
for
with
200
what he's
years.
You got 20% of the people
Kevin,
in poverty too.
I don't think you would disagree with what he's
That's a
saying
smaller
fundamentally, which is
percentage
that
in most countries.
that everything
Well,
in this
depends on
country
which
is based on
countries, you know.
trust. Right?
Yeah, but
I'm
business
sorry.
is based
That's
on
built
trust.
into
That's
the
what he's
system.
saying.
But
Yeah.
any time, listen, I love the narrative you're going with, but I keep reminding people it's a very simple metric, extremely measurable, cannot be denied. 52 cents of every dollar on earth every day comes to America for only one reason. People want to invest in this economy. With all of its faults, all of its problems, it is the number one destination for money from everywhere. So if they had concerns about trust, they'd put it in North Korea or maybe Cuba. How about Venezuela? I love that place. So the whole point is there's a reason you can measure this. You can debate it. I love that.
Right,
But
right.
the numbers don't lie. Number uno, every year
Yeah.
for 220 years.
One quick
rest my
thing,
case, Your
one
Honor.
quick thing on the immigration piece. Tonight, CNN called the Miami mayor's race for Eileen Higgins. She's a Democrat, the first Democrat in 30 years. Republicans hemorrhaging Cuban support because Cuba, alongside Haiti, alongside Somalia, are on that list. And it's not just that, but also they're being targeted. Some of them say because of their skin color. Politically, this feels like a deepening problem for Republicans as they go into the midterms.
Oh, I think it is. I think it is. I mean, if you look at the off-year elections leading up to a couple of special elections here, it's just one hit after another against Republicans and for the Democrats. So I think it's going to be difficult. If you lose Cuban Americans, and I'm not suggesting that a majority of Cuban Americans, that's a group that has traditionally supported Republicans, and they still will. But any diminishment of that support just really adds to Democrats' favor.
I
So
actually
that
think the Republicans
is really
have a good shot
significant.
at holding the House.
We got to leave it there. Next for us speaking.
What this stretch of the conversation really reveals is how two very different frameworks are being used to judge success in America. On one side, you have an argument rooted almost entirely in capital flow, investment confidence, and market performance. The idea is simple. If money keeps coming into the United States, then the system must be fundamentally sound. That's not an unreasonable metric, and historically, it has mattered. Investment does signal confidence in institutions, contracts, and stability, but the pushback here isn't denying those numbers. It's questioning whether they tell the whole story. When people point out that large segments of the population are still struggling, whether through poverty, rising healthcare costs, or economic insecurity, they're not rejecting capitalism. They're asking whether prosperity at the top is translating into stability and dignity at the bottom. Those two realities can exist at the same time, and acknowledging one doesn't automatically negate the other. The immigration piece fits neatly into that same tension. It's one thing to argue for stronger vetting based on national security concerns, and many people across the political spectrum agree that the government has a responsibility there. It's another thing entirely when individuals who have already followed the process, who have been vetted, approved, and are literally waiting to take the oath, are suddenly pulled out of line because of where they're from. That's where the concern about fairness comes in. Policies designed around risk can quickly start to look like punishment when they're applied broadly instead of individually. There's also an important point being made about trust, something that often gets lost when debates become purely economic. Markets don't function on money alone. They function on expectations, credibility, and the belief that rules will be applied consistently. That's as true for immigration systems as it is for business contracts. When rules appear to shift unpredictably, or when entire groups feel singled out despite playing by the rules, that sense of trust erodes. And once trust weakens, it has consequences far beyond one policy area. What I found especially striking is how this discussion circles back to politics as performance. Tough issues like healthcare costs, inflation, tariffs, and global instability don't lend themselves to easy sound bites. They require trade-offs, long explanations, and uncomfortable honesty. It's far easier, politically, to redirect attention, to focus on identity, outrage, or cultural conflict, than to wrestle publicly with problems that don't have quick fixes. That pattern isn't unique to one party or one figure, but it's something viewers are increasingly aware of. As Bran, my takeaway here isn't that one side is entirely right and the other entirely wrong. It's that these debates often talk past each other because they're answering different questions. One side asks, does the system attract money? The other asks, does the system treat people fairly and consistently? A healthy society probably needs to be able to answer both questions without dismissing either. If you've stayed with this discussion, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this breakdown, and drop a like if thoughtful, long-form commentary like this is what you want more of.